Transitioning Humanitarians Live with Viki. Hi, Viki.
Hi, Asel. Hello, everyone. Great to be here with you this Thursday again.
Yes, so we wanted to talk to you today about the continuation of the topic failure. And today we wanted to give you some ideas of how do you know what type of failing you might be going through and how to recognize it, and also what to do in those phases or in those types of failing. And of course, these are like observation without really, it's all arbitrary, but at least you can like the way that I think about it is like systematize for you in your head and then see if this is the one you're going through and then how can you help yourself get out of it, right? So the way that I was thinking, Vicky, is in terms of like three types of failing. One is when we're failing ahead,
Yeah,
meaning that we didn't even do anything, but we failed in our own head of creating all these obstacles, right? We will be talking more about that. And then another one is actually going through something and then failing and then learning our lessons of how we did it and what we did and all the things if we wanted to. And then the third one that I'm observing recently in my own experience is failing, like even if you fail in the big leap of making a jump to get to the goal or to what you want to, but still, even if you did fail in that big jump, you still be okay with the next thing you land on.
yeah.
And I will talk more about that as well as how I am experiencing currently in my own life. And that's also another option that we can consider. So let's start by maybe talking about the first one of failing ahead of time, right? Vicky, how is your experience and with your clients, and
Yeah.
what do you do about it?
Yeah, that's a big subject. I feel we could speak about it for the whole half an hour because this is such a common theme that I remember experiencing and doing myself, and I see, or also obviously with the people I meet or clients I coach, that the dream that I have or objective I have, it seems so unsurmountable. It seems so impossible that I do not even think of it. I'm so afraid of it that I don't even think of creating a plan or doing something about it. And somehow preemptively, I say that I'm not even going to try because I don't have what it takes or I'm sure to fail. And that's, I think, one of the most dangerous things that we can do for ourselves when we feel that when we don't have the belief in ourselves or we don't have belief in the universe or anything at all, that actually this is a dream that I can reach out, that I can get there. And I think this is something that I think it's very frequently we see it when we aim for something big, when there is a big objective, and in order to avoid pain or avoid disillusionment and suffering, people then say, oh, in order to protect themselves, they say, I'm not even going there.
Yeah.
And that's, I mean, the sense I get from this is such a, that's the real disillusionment. That's the real failure, I would say, when you actually do that to yourself.
Yeah,
I would
exactly.
start with that. What are your experiences with this, Asel?
Yeah, so I think the other one, in addition to what you said, is that I see common is we may even try a little and then we just do it like half-heartedly. We don't really do it like fully, or we don't really go all in on doing things. And then the first thing that we feel like, oh, this could be a failure, and then we just retrieve and then say, okay, I knew it wouldn't work. We just proved to ourselves that it didn't work. I knew this. I don't even know why I spent time and energy on this. And then we just make things far more worse rather than had we tried fully and had we like tried it out and ready for the failures and all the things, right? So that's why I think that's another way that we can see it. And one of the ways that I see also that we do fail ahead is we use all the external circumstances against ourselves by saying, because of this, because of that, because of that, we can't do it. And then outright, before even we try, we have all these arguments why it won't work,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And I think like many of us are so good at it, and we even say things like, well, it's a rational way of doing things,
Yeah.
or we say it's a adult thing of doing things, or it's a like it's an informed decision, or like we justify to ourselves why we can't do that. And that I think oftentimes just for us to really confirm our belief that we couldn't do it in the first place, and we just get all of this research or all of this statistics or whatever it is that we want to confirm, and then we're like, voila, we can't do it.
Yeah.
And in those terms, I would love for people to like think about if that's what's happening within you, is notice that if you remove those research and the statistics and all the external factors, if you just focus on your what's happening within, like all the fears that you experience,
Mhm.
and just focusing on those fears and what you want to do about it, is I would say the first thing you could do, or like think about it, instead of keep piling yourself with evidence of how this won't work and that won't work, because our brains are so good at it already, and therefore we don't even need to like do much to get the evidence for it. But if we really get like curious about why and what the fears behind all of this, then we may start doing something about it. What
Yeah.
would you say,
Yeah.
Vicky?
I absolutely agree. I think it's really important to go beyond the fear and really analyze, or maybe get some coaching about what is it that I'm fearing really,
Yeah.
because this is where the answer to this big question lies. So what is it that I'm fearing? The second question I would also ask, if I try, instead of if I try, who would I become? Who will I become? Because there is immense growth in trying and in learning and in going for it, and actually really devising a plan of saying, okay, this is what it takes, and maybe it's going to take me a year. Just like anything, just like becoming, learning a language, becoming, the profession you are. I mean, it took many years and also several failings. If we just take studies at the university, I mean, I think all of us probably failed at least one exam, or it's something along the way of reaching the larger objective. So I think it's really important to take it, to also have a larger scope and look at it from a larger perspective, in a sense, who am I becoming if I try? Where am I going? As opposed to what's happening when I stay in this one place and keep on convincing myself that, as you say, as you rightly said, and this is what's happening so often, that I took an informed decision and I don't have these studies, I don't have this, I read all that is necessary,
Yeah.
and this is all, and so you really just put, like, as if we have mindset, we close the mindset like this. We're generally closing the mindset to make it smaller. So I would say, yeah, the two questions: what am I fearing, and who can I become in, if I pursue this way.
Exactly. And then let's say that we go to the next phase, which is when you did try, right? So let's say that you have gone through it and then you fail, which is again another very common thing we humans go through. But somehow in that moment, that's not how it's going to feel. In that moment, it's going to feel like this is not how it should be, and all the drama that starts happening for many of us, right? So in those moments, oftentimes what we tend to do is trying to go back to what we know best. We try to just go back to safety or feeling like we're okay again, and then we want to of course console ourselves, but also start, we many of us may have the tendency to say things like, well, I will never do this again, I
Mhm.
will never go through this again, or whatever the version of that, right? And that's also very common. So therefore, the way that I deal with it, at least, is I let my brain like vent all of this out, and
Mhm.
that's, I just consider it's just part of how it is. I'm like, okay, I'm feeling so shitty. I didn't want this happen. This is what happened. I did this. I can't believe this, and all of this like comes out. And then what it I just then like calm is get a bit of a sense of calm of okay, this was a big failure, or this was a failure, whichever the way you see it. And then the next thing is vital of, okay, what am I going to do now to move forward, right? That's a key thing here because oftentimes my brain, and I'm assuming Vicky yours as well, like, okay, let's go back, let's go to all the things that we know. And in that moment, if our goal is in the future, then how do we get to the next thing? Even though it hurts and we may fail again, but important part is there. So what I have learned from my own experience is that in that moment is to really rely on how do I want to be the person who can make this work,
Yeah,
right? Like a bit what Vicky was saying, how do I want to be the person who makes this work instead of how do I want to be the person who just failed and goes back
yeah,
to things. And the analogy that I love using with myself and with my clients is like when we go driving the first time and we are so terrified, there's so many fears and all the things, but we keep going. And the reason why we keep going is because we want to have that sense of freedom. We want to have that sense of like we can do something, right? We want to have that pride. Whatever the feeling that you're chasing after driving, that's the sense you're wanting. And I really want to hold on to those feelings because I want to experience that.
yeah,
And I rather want to go through again another failure, maybe, but at least I want to go through and experience those
yeah,
feelings instead of going back and beating myself up for how I failed, how I'm this and how I'm that. And then I deal with all the self criticism that comes with it.
yeah.
What would you say, Vicky?
Yeah, absolutely. I very much agree with you. One of the metaphors that has come to my mind as I saw it is, a toddler that is learning to crawl. I mean, we all walk. I mean, as long as we are able-bodied, we all are able to walk and run and jump and all these things. But we had to start really by falling so many times as toddlers. So I think really just to think about of this metaphor, I think it's inevitable that to reach a goal we have to fail. As I said last time, you can also say fail means first attempt in learning. It is really continuous learning and improvement. The second thing I also wanted to say, exactly the sentence as you mentioned. One of the sentences or one of the questions I ask clients or even myself in this situation is, who do I need to become? It's very similar to what you ask, who do I need to become to reach this goal or to do this, because very often we need to work on ourselves in order to reach certain big goal that we have. And the third thing I would also like to mention is that sometimes I think we have a tendency to go for be perfectionist, and assume that everything happens on the first time. But
Yeah.
that's not life. We usually, even if look at statistics, you say that things don't happen. This is why, as we said last time, that's why we have pilot projects, etc. And on the way of doing it, attach we attach ourselves to the result. Like
Yeah.
instead of sort of enjoying the ride, as you say, enjoying the journey, we say I have to have it the first day or first time. But maybe it's going to be second, maybe it's going to be the third. So really just enjoying all of it. And maybe it's not only pleasant enjoying, and I hear you that sometimes they are difficult moments and you may feel disappointed, but to say, okay, fine, I have learned this from this. I will take another 2 months. I will take another half a year, whatever I allow myself.
Yeah.
And so I think here it's also what do I permit myself? What do I allow myself instead of sort of blocking myself? Okay, that's it. You have tried once. That's it. Go back to where you came from when you tell yourself. But to say,
Yeah.
okay, I give myself another chance. I give myself another month. I give myself, whatever it takes to reach that goal. So
Yeah.
that would be, some of the thoughts I have on the subject.
Yes. And one other thing that I think we have, I see a tendency that many humanitarians have, I think, including myself at some point, of I just keep trying. And I think that's a great way on the one hand, like we want to be trying and we want to like do things again, and that's great. But also, I see that many of us use it as a way of like, oh, I've been trying to do this for some like years,
Mhm.
and here I am, kind of a thing, as if like we get into this loop or the
Mhm.
habit of we just keep trying and then things somehow never work kind of a place. And
Mhm.
I would also caution you
Yeah.
from going there, because I was like talking to one of my clients and she was saying that like I don't know, dating, for instance, was for her something like, I've been trying to do this and to do that, and then I will prepare myself for this. And I saw her just using those excuses of never actually going for it.
Mhm.
Instead, just using other reasons for why, like, I need to have this done and then I can try, and I need to have this done and then I can try, and then keep delaying ourselves in the process because maybe we have failed in one of those areas and then now we don't want to go and like experience that again, right? So like for instance, some of us have fear of rejection and we don't want to go through that, and therefore we feel like fear of rejection is such a big failure, and therefore we then get into this habit of I just keep trying even though the actual going through this
Mhm.
is may not be happening, or it did happen once and then now we're just creating lots of activity around it without
Yeah.
actually going through this.
Mhm.
So I would like to also give you like sense of, is this really actually you're trying and going through this, or you're just tried once and failed and then now you haven't really gotten over the disappointment of it or
Mhm.
the like pain of it or whatever the thing that happened in that process, and now you just keep avoiding the next thing, but you keep telling yourself, yes, I'm open to failing or I'm open to going through, but actually not letting yourself go through, right? So that's why it can happen that after one failure, for instance, you may get into the habit of failing ahead of time,
Mhm.
even though you keep telling yourself, no, I am trying, I'm doing this, but somehow the results are not really showing you that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I would want to mention that.
Mhm.
The third one that I wanted to talk to you is the one that I'm experiencing currently, and that feeling of like wanting to jump high or wanting to take a big leap and going to the next level of my growth. But at the same time, feeling like even if I do fail that, I will still be better off than had I not tried any of that, right? So the way that I was thinking, like I was wanting to use the expression that I heard recently, which is aiming for the moon and landing in the stars. And I love that expression.
Mhm.
I don't know if it's an expression, but I heard from someone anyway. So I was thinking that how could we use the failure in those terms as well, in terms of not only fearing failure as such, but willing to go high on, like willing to fail high, but at least we have tried so hard to shoot for bigger things. And even if we do not achieve the bigger thing, we still land on the next thing that's still a damn good, right? And that type of failing that I was experimenting with. And I can see there are also good things and bad things about it. The good things is of course that we can, unlimit ourselves and then go for all the things that we want to, and that's amazing. But I can also see how my brain interprets it as, we're not going to go there anyway. Why bother? Or I don't think we will go, and like keep debating about whether we should go after all to the big thing or not, right? And half-heartedly doing some of the things, and then like telling myself, well, even if I land on the next best thing, it's going to be good anyway. So why wouldn't we do that? Like I see myself like debating a lot about it, and I see that's not really useful because that takes up a lot of energy about it. So that's why I would say that type of failing maybe is good for people who can be so aware of like
Mhm.
how the mindset is working and how we can basically deal with those type of drama. And if we're not good at dealing with those type of drama, I would suggest not to go for it at least in the
Mhm.
first tries. Otherwise, I can just see myself being in this position of just failing in advance a bit, like, but telling myself, I'm the person who can't really do big leaps or some type of version of it, and then suffering under consequences of it, which I don't suggest any of us doing it. So that's why see for yourself if this is something for you or not. And also the other thing that I'm really focusing here in this type of failing is like staying so much in the, okay, I'm doing it on purpose, not because I have to do it.
Yeah.
And I think that's helping me a lot. instead of my brain immediately goes to, ah, you are this person who can't do XYZ. But I'm like, no, I'm doing this on purpose because I want to see how I can get there. And if I don't, I'm okay, but I'm just wanting to see it, right?
Yeah, yeah.
What would you say,
It's
Viki?
interesting perspective, absolutely, and I agree with you that it's important that one, when should you undertake this journey of this third kind of failing, as you call it, it's important to be aware of one's negative self-talk or saboteurs,
Yeah,
because these are really the places that, as you say, you debate with yourself, and it's important to be aware of all the patterns, the negative patterns we might have, because then it might be unequal discussion. But yes, I think it's overall. I would, I just want to stress that what is for me, what is really important here, then what I would encourage everyone to think of failing as the way of learning, as an opportunity to learn, and no matter how difficult sometimes can be, really even research shows that this is the best way of dealing with these with sort of setbacks that we experience, with sort of things we try and we don't succeed at the first time, that really take some time and see what are we learning from that, and what is the journey, or what is opening up in front of us, because after every of these sort of failing, so to speak, there is something opening up in front of us, that a
yeah,
different pathway, or the same pathway, or more
yeah,
informed pathway, that is telling us, okay, now you have learned this, and you can do
yeah,
this. So yeah, I would really say, yeah, well, let's not attach maybe so much result. Let's try without expecting that we are going to have a success tomorrow. I think that's at least really my attitude, that I practice, and then once I get it, it's great. I said, because this was my initial plan. um,
yeah, exactly. And the other thing I was thinking about is in terms of experimenting is, so if you are very risk averse, or you are so much like you have difficulty with failure as a concept as such, and I can imagine many, like some people are like that. I was experimenting yesterday actually about this. So I was thinking, if I was the person who's so afraid of this type of failure, how else would I experience my feelings and be like in the constrained environment and look at them, right? And I did an experiment yesterday with my husband. I was
mhm,
playing card with him,
mhm,
and it's of course a, I don't know, it's an Italian card. It's called Gnagno anyway, and Scopa, I think. Anyway, it doesn't matter. What mattered was that as I was failing in the game, I was observing how my feelings were coming
mhm,
up, right? All kinds of feelings. And then I was thinking, okay, if I just continue with those feelings now of like how I failed, how I'm not intelligent, how this and how that, my brain is like starting immediately showing you all these thoughts. I was thinking in that moment, okay, if I continue those patterns now, I will not course correct, meaning I will lose. If I just keep being in that mode, I will lose and I see
yeah,
myself doing it. So
yeah,
how do I, in that moment, like I know that this is what I'm feeling, these are the things that's coming up. I can
mhm,
see all boiling up,
mhm,
but how do I focus myself to the part of, okay, how do I win the game in the end, because there's still like half the time left for me to do something about it, right? And I
mhm,
think being able to get yourself to the place where, okay, I'm feeling all of these things, they're so bad and all the things, but I have a way to focus myself to this thing that I want to actually do and accomplish. How do I go through and do it?
yeah,
And you
yeah,
can experiment with yourself, with your feelings, in terms of in the like confines of whatever the game you want to play, and see how you're reacting, how you can actually get yourself from that feeling of, okay, I'm losing,
mhm,
to the feeling of I can still do something about it. And I think that's like a crucial maneuvering that you can do and test
yeah,
with yourself.
yeah.
And if you can like succeed in that environment, at least for yourself, to see how you do, and then you can start like doing with the real things of going about it. What would
Mhm.
you say,
I
Vicky?
like I like your experiment. It's very good because it has two or three main components, and it has a component of identifying
Mm,
real
yeah,
mindset, right? And this is, sometimes I see it, and I see it in myself sometimes and others, that we stay a little bit far too long in certain even mindset or feeling, and then we realize, oh wait, but I'm just feeling so negative, like for the last half an hour I've been feeling like this, and you can't do any, like there is nothing positive coming out of negative mindsets or hard sets, as I call them. So to identify is really crucial, and I love the way you explained, because you identified, and then once you identify, you can course correct. Then you can course correct your mindset, and also you how you feel about it. And the crucial moment you're also describing, okay, identified, there might be some tensions, emotional tensions, but you said, okay, I will go through it. Like this is, I will course correct, I will try again, and I will, this is how I'm going to feel about it. So I think this is a very great experiment that you've done, and I think this is a very good, I would say, recommendation for people to try, like in condensed environment. I think it's a great.
Yeah, exactly. And also the other thing I was thinking that I wanted to share here is yesterday I was coaching one of my clients and he was going through a lot of difficulties after having decided to not go for what he wanted and then staying in this a lot of, I think, not only shame but also beating himself up and all of this, why I didn't do this and all the things, right? And I was just discussing with him this moment of how we can learn from avoidance, right? Basically, when we avoid failure, because his mind, if he went for what he wanted, he would fail and therefore he wouldn't be able to do all of these
Mhm.
things, right?
Okay.
And I was just discussing with him how, like, avoiding failure feels like. And I think it's so key for us to memorize it because we believe that if we just avoid failing, then we'll magically be like living a happy life and all the things, which does not always work that way because there is a reason why we wanted to go for what we wanted, right? So that's why I was telling him that let's memorize this state where how it feels actually to avoid failing, how it feels to avoid growing, and it doesn't feel good.
Mhm.
And and I was thinking, I was telling him like, let's go through the thing that we want to go for, and at least fail there and then like saying okay we failed and feeling bad about it, at least we know why we're feeling bad about it, right?
Yeah.
Instead of not even having anything, any result or anything that we're actually having tangible to look at it, but instead feeling bad about for avoiding, I don't think is useful for any of
Yeah.
us. So that's why I was just thinking about like for anyone who's risk averse or who's wanting to just avoid any of the failures, think about how it feels if you don't go for it and stay in that feeling. And that's something that I don't want to like experience um, either. And therefore I remind myself, okay, I can either come out of this failing but at least feeling good about myself for having tried,
Yeah.
or not trying and feeling like a coward or feeling like, oh my
Failure.
God, I didn't do this and that, and I could have done this and all the things, and then beating myself up, which I don't want to do much. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yes, I think that's a good conclusion. For me, one thing I might want to say, and I think I just repeated from last time, is that really, if we don't try, if we don't go into this land, I mean, I think we are indirectly killing our creativity, which is really, trying all these things. We are also enhancing our creativity. We are using our creativity to find different solutions, different ways of handling or reaching for the goal that we have. So yeah, and nobody wants to go to those places, or I think it's not
Yeah.
comfortable to go to those places.
Exactly. And maybe one caveat that we didn't mention, but maybe it's good to mention it here anyway, is the part where we're not feeling good, we might be burnout, or we are
Mhm.
struggling with certain things, right? Of course, we're not talking about those type of situations because in those moments, it's
Yeah.
best to take care of yourself
Yeah.
and coming yourself back to the
Mhm.
place where you usually operate. So that's why please
Yeah.
don't take us in the way of, okay, we're just pushing you all through this, I don't know, a failure and after failure. That's not the intention.
Yeah.
That's why all of the things that we're talking about to the people who want to do this, who want to go through
Mhm.
to the goals that they want to achieve or to the life they want to live, and they are ready to do that. And we're talking to those people.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so I think Vicky, we've covered everything. Anything?
Anyway, next week we'll certainly have another topic on failure, and from a
Yeah,
different perspective. So for today, yes, but probably
yeah.
still certain subjects to explore.
Exactly. Okay, so we have covered everything around at least the types of failing and how you can recognize and what you can do about it. And if you need any questions, if you have any questions, you do let us know. Want coaching to let us know. And until next Thursday, have a great week.
Have a great week. Bye bye.